Ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast. Welcome back into the Sports Buffoon Studios, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We have the full clan back together, all in the same house once again. Oh my God, it is Jason JG and Tanner Dawson. What's up, fellas?
What's up, everybody?
What's up, yous all?
And it's a brand new year. It's
is.
2022. Let's make this 2022, not 2022 again, if you know what I'm saying. So, with that said, I mean, hopefully we can get the Chiefs getting a little better, start getting back on the win streak coming up. Of course, we have a lot to talk about today about champs or chumps, right, Tanner?
That's right. Champs or chumps.
Champs or chumps.
Frauds, chumps.
Sure.
It's the same old thing.
Right. Some of our predictions about who's going to actually be going to the Super Bowl this season, as well as Jason's favorite topic, the NBA, of course, is once back again a part of the podcast. So
It's
I'm sure
that time of year.
you're excited for that, aren't you?
We have some great topics for the NBA coming up in the next few weeks for sure. I've been waiting on it the whole season.
Yeah, if you heard Tanner, your daughter just yelled out of excitement for NBA discussions. So I'm glad she can help fill in my shoes every once in a while since I am the NBA buffoon.
It's probably Chiefs.
I'll let her come and take my place for some of the NBA discussions later on. But guys, beginning a new year, I mean, do you guys have any New Year's resolutions, or is that not something you believe in?
It's nothing I really stick to or believe in.
I do have a resolution, actually. I want to make more money at the casino than I did last year. It's very simple. You got to keep it simple, stupid.
And so far, you're already up, right?
Simple, stupid.
Yeah. So far, I'm definitely up.
So far, you and I are both 2 for 2 at the gas station casino. So that's what matters, right?
That's all that matters. You got to be in profit.
Gas station casino down the street. What are you sipping on, guys?
I got the Duke whiskey here.
Is that a rye or a bourbon?
It's a rye.
Rye whiskey, okay.
It's really good.
On the rocks.
On the rocks.
Doing it classy like Tanner does. Nice. What are you drinking, Jason?
I'm going with a wild turkey. I haven't had it in a long, long time.
It's one of my favorite. Dude, it's an old classic for me. That's what I'm drinking right now, too. So it's going to carry me through the hour long of this show. That's right, boys. I said hour. Not an hour and 30, not an hour and 20. 1 hour long goddamn show. So let's make sure we
Jason,
fit it in.
let's take care of this.
All right, Tanner.
I'll go with 59 minutes.
59 minutes sounds good to me. But with that said, then if we're going to do that, we got to kick this thing off, right?
Get it off.
I mean, real quick here too. We talked about what we're doing today here, as you can see above on the screen. Of course, we got frauds, champs for frauds. We got Chiefs to talk about, lots and lots of Chiefs, and of course the NBA. So
lots of Chiefs today.
And of course, before we do begin our first segment, please subscribe, like, and hit that bell button so you guys know when we are live here, because we might have some things coming up here come playoff time. You never know. So, which one we started here? We
jump in the
champs or frauds?
Or frauds, yeah.
Let's do it. All right, guys. So, NFL playoff path is starting to come to a close. We're in the last week of things. There's still quite a few teams fighting for playoff spots in the AFC. But the NFC is pretty much wrapped up, minus one spot, right? So the Eagles just got the 6th seed, so now we got the 7th seed. And the 49ers and Saints are essentially fighting for that. 49ers have the Rams this week, Saints with the Falcons. So that's going to be great TV, period, no matter what, because the 49ers did beat the Rams early on the season. Packers did clinch number 1, so we're not worried about that. AFC side, guys, Colts, Chargers, Raiders, Ravens, Steelers are somehow all hanging around. And the Chargers-Raiders got flexed to Sunday night. They do play each other. And the Ravens-Steelers play each other as well. So basically, we have at least 2 sets of games that if they want a shot at the playoffs, they got to win. And then, of course, the Colts got the Jaguars at the Jaguars, and they haven't won a game at Jacksonville since, 2015?
2014.
2014?
Yeah.
I think 2014, which is insane, right, to think about. So we'll see. The Colts just lost to the Raiders, for God's sake. So anything can happen now along with that. But we're not going to worry about those playing teams here. We're going to worry about everybody that's clinched a playoff berth and if they're going to be champs or if they're frauds. We're just going to quick roundtable here, guys. We'll start in the NFC because that's a little bit more solidified up here. Packers just clinched the number 1 seed last week with their win against the Vikings. They got the Lions, of course, week 18, but it doesn't matter. Sounds like Aaron Rodgers is going to play. Hopefully they rest at least the second half of this game. We're going to start right at the top. Are the Packers champs or are they frauds? Jason, what do you got?
Well, when I look at the Packers, I mean, they have the league MVP on their team. And we were talking about this earlier. I think that Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams is probably the best quarterback wide receiver combo in the NFL. And their defense has been pretty good so far this year. I know there's a lot of Aaron Rodgers haters out there that think that he shouldn't win the MVP or whatever, but I mean, he's playing as good as he ever has, basically in his whole life. And so these guys are for real. And if I'm trying to rank teams that are Super Bowl contenders or if they're fakes, I mean, we all know that Green Bay is probably at least a top 3 team, top 4 team in the NFL. So they're for real. So I'm taking the Green Bay Packers for sure.
Champs.
100%. I mean, they got to go in the champs category because, taking this whole game here we're playing into a certain perspective, I might have more than 2 champs. I might have more than 1 champ, obviously.
Correct.
Green Bay is real. They are champs. They are my Super Bowl team at this point because this team would be actually 14-2 right now if Rodgers had played back on, I think, November 7th against the Chiefs in that game where the Chiefs only scored 13 points. Yes. Trust me, Aaron Rodgers would have done a little better than Jordan Love that day. So Green Bay is for real. They are champs.
Aaron Rodgers has only thrown 4 interceptions, guys,
the
whole season. 2 of them was week 1. So essentially you take week 1 out, he's thrown 2 interceptions. Right. Which is ridiculous.
And it's nuts because he does this almost consistently year to year as far as low interception totals. But the last couple of years in particular, he's playing the most efficient football in the history of the league, I would say.
Yeah, and he said he did a lot of prep, throughout last season as well, just to get back to that 2017 form. And obviously he's doing really well. So Packers, of course, are champs for me as well. There's no reason not to say it. They just clinched up the number 1 seed, the only number 1 seed to clinch because the AFC side's still figuring it out. So Packers are champs. Next up, guys, currently number 2 seed, Rams, Los Angeles Rams. They beat the Vikings, week 16. They beat the Ravens, barely beat the Ravens. Week 17, Stafford struggled again with a couple interceptions. They got the 49ers, who did take care of him the first time around. As the Los Angeles Rams with all those big names, all the trades they made, no first-round picks until, 2028 or whatever. Are they champs or are they frauds?
I'm going to go with champs here. I mean, you look at the game that they've got coming up against the Niners. I mean, I think the Niners have a chance to beat them in this game. But, I mean, as the number 2 seed overall right now, I mean, I'm not worried about them. I love what they're doing with Matthew Stafford this year. I mean, he's taken a step forward, obviously, in his career, and he's helped the Rams to take a step forward versus what they were with Jared Goff. They're 12-4 right now. I like the defense. So, to me, they're a contender. So, I'm going to go with champs here on the Rams.
Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, because the Rams are one of the most talented teams in the entire league, top to bottom. We look at the defense as well as the offense production. They got their X factor that's here every once in a while to make deep plays, Van Jefferson. But Odell Beckham's really coming into his own with the team now.
Really has.
And so I think Stafford's playing well. Like overall, it's just a well-rounded team. And if you look at the teams that they've lost to, I mean, they're not out there losing to a bunch of bums all these weeks. I mean, the Packers are a team they lost to. They lost to the 49ers, who are 9-7 right now. And let's see, one of their other losses throughout the year was to the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can't remember the other one they lost, but Titans. Okay, so they're losing to at least legitimate teams. All these teams are above 500, so they're not going out there getting their asses kicked by a bunch of teams who have no business, even competing against them. Like we see certain teams in the AFC go out there, like the Titans, for instance, lose to the Jets, or some teams might be losing to the Jaguars. It's like, why are you losing to these crappy teams? I know it's the NFL, but really you should be beating the bad teams of the league. So the Rams,
Badly.
for me,
Yeah.
consistently are doing their job against lesser teams while also fighting and competing against teams that are on their same level. So they are champs for me.
Yeah, I'm going to say champs as well. They got Cam Akers starting to come back. He's going to play a little bit this next week here. That'll be kind of nice to see a little bit run game complement Sony Michel.
Of course.
Sony Michel's done a great job, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He's really stepped up after Henderson went down, and he hasn't looked back, which is exactly what they traded for. So I'm going to go Rams, guys. They are the champs as for me as well. All right, next up, the defending champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Antonio Brown meltdown. Mike Evans, of course, is still there. They're without Chris Godwin. Rob Gronkowski looks like Rob Gronkowski from old, so which is kind of nice to see. But they don't have Leonard Fournette still out, possibly till playoff time. Ronald Jones is currently in a walking boot. So you got Vaughn, and I think I don't know who else is behind him because Giovanni's out as well. So the run game could struggle. So that leaves a lot of pressure on Tom Brady, and that defense also is beat up as well. A couple linebackers sat out last week. It's kind of looking slim for these guys going into a playoff push, but you never know with Tom Brady. Champs are frauds. Buccaneers. They got the Panthers this week to finish out the season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with fraud. I don't see them as a contender right now. And as you stated, Tanner, they are banged up right now. And I do believe that's their biggest problem. But they also have the Antonio Brown situation. And it's kind of turned them into a circus show over the past few days. But being banged up is not going to help you for sure if you have to go into a rematch of the NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers, if they even make it that far. I mean, I don't have the Bucs necessarily even make it to the NFC Championship game. So, Mike Evans with that hamstring injury, I mean, those don't heal fast. He probably shouldn't have been out there last week because obviously he was not 100%. They shouldn't have had him out there. But, I mean, I like their backup receivers, but I don't like them that much. Like, they can step up and make plays here and there. But it's not like a championship level team.
And you saw, so on top of that, right? So you saw the way Tom Brady struggled against when he was playing the Panthers the first time around, and he struggled. He didn't have Mike Evans. Godwin was out. It was the Saints. That's who it was.
Mm-hmm.
Godwin got hurt. Evans got hurt. Tony Brown was still out. There's your three big man guys. Rob Gronkowski had only one catch that game. And they ended up losing badly. The first time Tom Brady's been shut out in like 15 years or something like that. And you saw that with the backup receivers, the backup tight ends, without the weapons, Tom looked average, which is weird. So, that's a great point too. Because what if Mike Evans gets hurt? What if his hamstring gets worse? They don't sit him out. So it's
all right. At this point, they relied on Antonio Brown to now be the WR1 going forward as the postseason rolls around. While Evans works through his injury. Antonio Brown is now no longer going to be on this team or in the NFL for that matter going forward, in my opinion. Now, as far as I've seen, he's not officially been released. I don't know why.
I think they're working on an NFL commission situation, like making sure they can try to get their money back.
Right.
So, but they can't put him on IR because then that justifies Antonio Brown's case.
Right.
So you're kind of stuck with him as a roster
spot.
No,
I think they could bring him back, and this is a whole nother story. But we all know Bruce Arians doesn't care what the media thinks about him.
It's
so
true.
There is a scenario out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen where Antonio Brown says, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to play now," and they let him come back.
It's like a Dennis Rodman situation.
Yeah, I mean, he first of all he didn't do anything wrong, right? Like. We all know Rodman back in the day in the NBA. He took his shirt off all the time. No big deal. Now all of a sudden, Antonio Brown. Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. It's really not that.
Paraded out though.
It's not that big of a deal as people make it out to be. However, he's not going to be on an NFL team this year, and the Bucs are going to release him.
Okay.
Anyways, guys, the fact of the matter is the Buccaneers lost to the Saints twice this year and to the Washington football team as well this year. So. Good teams shouldn't be losing games like that, and so I think I look at this whole team in this situation currently. Now they've gotten worse as time's gone on, and I think they're very beatable, especially if you compare them to teams like Packers and Rams and so on. I think the Bucs. This reign right now is over, and so we'll see if Tom comes back for year number 45 of his life to play football once again. They are, to me, frauds at this point.
Until Tom Brady retires, guys, the Bucs are champs. Period. I don't care. They're going to be in the championship contender. So they're currently, if they stick where they're at, they play the Eagles, which is a beatable team.
Sure, of
We all know
course.
this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that gets them part. But I'd say champs for me. Cowboys, guys. Dallas Cowboys here. They're such an inconsistent team. It's like they're on for 2 weeks and off for one, whatever that is. They got the Eagles this week as well. I mean, do we consider the Cowboys champs?
Cowboys are a fraud. And the main reason why they're a fraud is because they have a really good quarterback, but they don't have a great quarterback. They have kind of a mediocre coach, but they don't have a good coach.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest issue for me with the Cowboys is that, yeah, they're a good team, but if you're going to be a champ, you got to be great. If you don't want to just make it to a Super Bowl, you got to be great. And so I don't trust the Cowboys at all. I mean, I love the roster, and maybe there's a few tweaks they can do during the off season, but I don't trust the coach. And, you know, I trust Dak to a certain extent, but not if we're talking about being a Super Bowl champion. So for me, they are frauds.
Yeah, I feel the same way because of the inconsistency, and I think Mike McCarthy is a very overrated head coach as well. I see them losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to throughout the season. Obviously, Broncos and Raiders are to name. Chiefs scored 19 on them, got a victory on that one. Only put up 9 points on Dallas's in there against the Chiefs at that point of the season. But I just think that's the biggest problem is inconsistency. When you look at the coaching and consistency of some of the other teams in the NFC, you know, I think that honestly, Packers, Rams, Cardinals, or even the Bucs could all beat the Cowboys in the playoffs if it came down to it. So to me, at this point, they look good on paper at 11-5, but they are going to be frauds.
I agree. There's just too many inconsistencies. They have such great weapons at wide receiver, though. It's just amazing that the fact that they're not any better.
And they have two good running backs, too. Tony Pollard, of course,
Tony
is
Pollard
great.
and Zeke.
And the defense is opportunistic, I'll put it that way. Obviously, they got one of the better playmaking corners that we've seen in a long time as a rookie. He was up there with the Marcus Peters of the world as a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that style where Peters gave up some plays every once in a while, but you forgive him because
so did Diggs. I mean, so is Diggs. But
so that's the point. Yeah,
Parsons is on COVID now, so he'll be back for the playoffs at least. So, guys, Cowboys, too many consistent losses. You shouldn't be losing certain teams. I'm going to go frauds for the Cowboys. All right, next up, Arizona Cardinals, guys. They were number one on our power rankings forever until the downfall after they got healthy, whatever reason. What do you got, Jason?
No, they're frauds this year. I mean, if we're looking long term, I mean, yeah, I think they're Super Bowl contenders. But for this year, my biggest problem with them is that they peaked at the wrong time, which was early in the season. They started out hot. And as far as medium to long term, I love Kyler Murray, and I love their coaching staff and everything they're doing over there, the wide receivers. But they peaked at the wrong time, and I think that it's too late for them. I think they should at least win a playoff game this year. But if you're talking about competing with like the Green Bay Packers or the Rams, they're not going to have what it takes, at least for this year. And so for me, they're a fraud.
I'll put it this way: they're better to me than the Bucs and the Cowboys, and I think this is a team that has more upside than either one of those two teams at this point in the season, just because of the talent they have both offensively and defensively. And so I just feel like, you know, there's a chance here I want to give them, even as a 5 seed, the champs label, but I just can't because these types of teams that I've talked about, you don't lose to you don't lose to the Lions, and you don't go out and then lose to the Panthers as well. And so those are two teams. If you're champs, that doesn't happen. Like good teams don't lose to bad teams, and Panthers and Lions are both trash. And so to me, at this point in the season, you got to put them in the fraud category.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Look, one player actually does make a difference on this team, and with no D-Hop, this team is frauds. They lack the weapons. AJ Green is not AJ Green of old by any means. They don't have another weapon there. They're healthy in running back. Fabulous. You got Zach Ertz. Great. You can't go deep. You can't go deep on this team. And they almost lost to the Cowboys this past weekend after they were up big. So, yeah, I'm going frauds just for the fact that without D-Hop, guys, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. All right, guys. Finally, Philadelphia Eagles. This should be pretty easy here. Jalen Hurts actually was a lot better than we thought this year would be. But Eagles, I'm going frauds on them. Right, Jason?
Yeah, they're frauds. I mean, Hurts to me is a little bit of an overachiever. I'm a little bit surprised at what he's done this year.
Same.
But congratulations. You guys are a wild card team in the NFC East. Go F yourself.
Yeah, that's what they deserve. All of Philadelphia does, right?
That's about right.
Yeah, at this point, they're the 7th seed, whatever. They're
Sixth seed.
I have 7th seed on my list at the moment, but
maybe 49ers Saints might pass them up. Because 49ers Saints is the 7.
Okay.
So one of those two teams would be.
Well,
yeah, Philly is
they're
currently the 7th seed, but
okay. So it means 49ers Saints would take the 6th seed. I got you. It's weird. But
right now, the 49ers are the 6th seed right now. But anyways, guys, that's besides the point.
Right.
The Eagles are frauds. They are not champs by any means.
No, I'm with you. All right, AFC's a lot shorter list, guys. We could probably make this pretty quick because I feel like there's a lot of good teams here as well. Tennessee Titans start at the top. Derrick Henry's coming back. They started him in practice already today. It sounds like he won't play in Week 18, of course, but he should be ready for playoff time if they get that bye. I don't even know. Even if they don't get that bye, do you think the Titans are champs?
I'm going to go with champs here, but only because the AFC is so wide open. Between like COVID cases and injuries and what have you, everybody is looking at the Bengals right now thinking that they're a contender and Joe Burrow's injured. So, anything can happen at this point in the AFC. And so that's why I would say, they're a championship contender for sure, especially the likes of Derrick Henry coming back. Now he'll definitely be on a snap count this week. But if you have a guy like Derrick Henry in the playoffs, anything is possible for the Titans. So I think obviously as the number 1 seed, they're a little bit overrated at this point. But for me, I'm going to go champs for the Titans.
Here's the thing. Derrick Henry could come back, and we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. Is he going to be back to his old self and walk in right away and be running over guys again and breaking out 70-yard runs, even though he's huge, because it's so rare to see? Or is he going to come back and be a little slower, have a step miss, but he's back because the Titans need him so badly. They need him just for the sake of even having any potential to go further into the playoffs from where they're currently looking at. Because without him, I think that's a very, very beatable team that scares really no one. So for me right now, the Titans, I cannot look at them and say that they're champs. To me, they are actually frauds.
Titans are frauds, all right. And they got Foreman, who's ran really well for him since Henry's absence, so that could be a kind of scary back.
It's not the same thing.
They do have Deontay Foreskin. Can I just throw that nickname?
I was going to say
my old foreskin. My old favorite foreskin.
All right, Titans for me, guys. I really think they're frauds. I just can't believe in him here. Derrick Henry's not going to be the same. There's no way he's the same coming in a playoff game, even with the bye. I just don't believe in them right now, so I'm going frauds. Chiefs, guys, Chiefs. Our Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to talk a lot more on that very shortly here. I think we should be all in agreement here. I believe the Chiefs are champs. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, you're all healthy pretty much. Clyde should be back for the playoffs as well. Tyreek Hill, Travis. Yeah, yay.
For sure. Yeah, they're a championship contender. They've been there and done that. We don't have too many questions about their experience versus some of these other contenders that we'll talk about in the AFC. So, yeah, they're definitely championship contenders for me, just because of their experience. And, they've basically been the favorites in the AFC for the better part of the year, even after they started out slow. So, yeah, I'll go champs here.
Yeah, there's only 2 teams in the AFC for me that falls in the champ category. And when you look at the Chiefs' 8-game win streak we just came off of, due to some really, really shitty officiating. And as you can hear, Tinsley knows all about that too, yelling upstairs. So we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But, yeah, the Chiefs are champs. And, I think we'll talk more about that here in a few minutes.
Yep, champs for me as well. Bengals, Joe Burrow's hurt. Joey Mixon's on COVID. I don't know. I wasn't really impressed with them. They got some great playmakers. They got some good key pieces that could happen. But I think the Bengals are frauds this year. plain and simple. They do still got a chance to win for the number 1 seed, but it sounds like they're not going to try to go for it. So they're going to just rest their players. So I'm going to go frauds for Bengals. I just don't believe in the consistency of this team as well.
Yeah, the Bengals are frauds this year. Moving forward, we all know what they're capable of.
They can be dangerous
with
next
Joe
couple of
Burrow.
years.
And so, moving forward, next couple of years, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But this year, I'm not sure about Joe Burrow's injury. And for me, that last game, that was their Super Bowl. And they're going to be riding high into the playoffs no matter what happens in this next game against the Browns. And, they're not going to go very far in the playoffs. So for me, they're frauds.
Yeah,
I think the Bengals are a fun team to watch, though.
They're fun.
Obviously they're explosive. They got playmakers as far as at the receiver position. Mixon looks like he's finally having fun. The defense still is average to below average at times, and so I think that's a big concern when you look at the playoffs and everything like that. Obviously, we have our feelings about the way things should have gone down in the game this past weekend, but to me, the Bengals are a good team for the future. Obviously, I think Burrow's really coming into his own. Jamar Chase looks like he's going to be great for a long time. Up there with the Justin Jefferson type of a young guy that's going to come out and put up big numbers next year too. But they're frauds this year.
Yeah. Bills. Josh Allen, do you think he can do it? Do you think that defense can actually play and contain these guys? They got a running game starting to go, which is kind of nice to see. But, Bills, champs, frauds?
Yeah, I'll go champs here only because they've been in that playoff setting before, and they're trying to take the next step forward. I do trust Josh Allen to put them into contention, and like I said earlier, as wide open as the AFC is, you got to put the Bills up there. Mike was saying that he only has 3 championship contenders. He's only got 2. I'm going to go with 3. I've got Tennessee, the Chiefs, and Buffalo. Just because, Buffalo, we all trust in Josh Allen today, I think, to take the next step forward, even though he's not we don't believe in him as being like the next Patrick Mahomes or anything.
Correct.
But he has the ability. He's got an amazing arm, and he can run like crazy. So they are a threat. Buffalo is a threat. So I'm going to go champs here.
Yeah, they say, and it still holds true even today, that I think, defensive play does win championships, and the Bills lead the entire league in defensive yards per play allowed. And so they're actually above the Patriots in that ranking, which we all look at the Patriots and go, they lead the league in points allowed, but on a per play basis, Buffalo's the best. And so I think taking that now, going against great offenses in the AFC, even if they have to play the Bengals or play the Chiefs at some point in the postseason, that's going to be tough for sure to be able to go against that. And we already saw the Chiefs once against Buffalo early in the season and get stomped, mainly because of that defense was so dominant. And so for me, the Bills are absolutely champs. If it's not the Chiefs, it's the goddamn Bills.
Yeah, and a defensive-minded coach, which is very important.
Yeah, I'm putting them in my champs category as well, just for all the reasons you said. They also got the great Stephon Diggs in there, who's been kind of inconsistent this year, but I think he's starting to step back up too, and Josh Allen's going to be looking for him. So
another fun stat, though, they've only allowed 11 passing touchdowns this season.
That's
11
insane.
For the entire year. That's nuts.
That's insane.
That's the best in the league. Next closest is the Rams at 15. So
wow,
keep that in perspective.
That just blew my mind. All
right.
Patriots, guys, final one. Champs, frauds. I'm going frauds just for the fact that I don't believe if Mac Jones had to carry this team right now, I don't think he can carry this team. Plain and simple.
No, they're frauds. Mac Jones is not ready. He's very ready when you're talking about regular season games, but they're going to rock his world when he gets into the playoffs. And so as much as I trust Belichick and I trust that roster overall, they could probably win a playoff game this year, but
they could probably sneak one in.
They're not going to be a contender by any stretch of the imagination, and that'll come eventually with Mac Jones. I think, in the next few years. He's got a good season at least to build upon.
I think there's promise for Mac Jones is the thing, but I just don't feel like I'm confident to go with that.
It's not going to happen right now.
You're not a champ yet.
Might happen later. It's not going to happen right now.
Yeah, a great defense still on this team, pretty good running game, but the Mac Jones is not ready yet for being put in that position of going out and trying to be a championship team. They could go playoffs and probably get bounced out in the first week or two, but I don't see him going very far at all, so they are frauds to me.
Well, guys, that's chance frauds here. on the Sports Buffoons here. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, follow if you haven't already. And then we'll talk a lot more playoffs come next Wednesday as this weekend solidifies the rest of the playoff bracket. So this is exactly what's happening on.
Yeah, Tanner, that was a very girthy segment we just had.
It was a little girthier. I didn't expect as much wisdom from you guys.
Wisdom, huh?
To be honest with you,
Wisdom.
you guys actually had some really good points in your thing. So
Sure,
I was kind of shocked to hear that much coming out.
When you want to have topics, Tanner, we're going to bring the A game.
I love it.
Even though we're playing slots at a gas station, we're still going to bring the A game on Wednesdays as much as possible.
40 cents, $36. It's worth it, right?
I was down to $1, and then I still came out with $36. I'm happy with that.
It's all about priorities. Like that, when we're talking about a sports show, it's all about priorities. You got to get that shit straightened out.
Tanner, I think we need to talk Chiefs now.
Chiefs, let's do it. So, of course, on the show here, guys, there we go. So, Chiefs, if we have the little, you like the Patrick Mahomes with the referee next to it?
Patrick Mahomes with the referee next to it,
Yeah.
giving him the what the hell look. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I mean,
I think it's pretty fitting.
I think we were, I think we were all thinking the same thing this past weekend, watching one of the worst officiated games I would say of the season. Just based on the timing of most of the flags that were thrown, I would say.
All right, so for our podcast users, audio from Spotify, Apple, and all Amazon, Mike is currently wearing a tinfoil hat, and he'll explain why. But this is why we started laughing. Mike is wearing a tinfoil hat.
Now, before we get started, I just want to point out that we are not discriminating or making fun of people that wear tinfoil hats, because I have seen them on the streets.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a real thing. We're not making fun of people. This is just like a thing that we're doing for the show. So.
Yeah, of course. But some people out there might think I'm a little crazy. But guys, watching the game this past weekend reminded me of some WWE bullshit. And so seeing all the things that went on with the referee crew in this game is just absolutely wacky. And the way the Chiefs defense went out there and made stops at the end, and yet still, it doesn't matter how well the Chiefs played, no matter how many stops they would make. Oh, here comes a flag. Oh, wait, we got to have 2 flags. That way, we got to replay the down. Stuff like that. But here's what's really funny to me about the whole situation is that John Husey was actually supposed to be the head referee of this game, that he was assigned to this one. And then the morning of the game, it was announced a substitution of Ron Turbert would then be made. And this was the very first head referee substitution of the entire season, or at least very first surprise one, I would say. And so obviously, NFL teams, they scout the referees just like they scout the opponent too, right? And so you want to know what a referee crew is more likely to call flags on, and you then are able to relay the message to some of your players of what could be getting away from a little, or what you could be getting away with more of, I guess I would say, throughout a game. But here's the deal. As a head referee, Torbert might have been a scapegoat of biased officiating this season. And he might have been thrown in there for the sake of using him to be able to say, oops, my bad. Just we had a different referee crew, and maybe there's just some things were a little off. Because we saw this happen to the Chiefs back in 2018 in Mexico City when they played against the LA Rams. And in that game, we saw head referees from all over the crews that we have in the NFL be put into place, and we saw flags out the ass in that game. Chiefs got screwed multiple times in that game. And so I think this is a situation here. I'm going to tell you guys a stat about Ron Torbert before we continue on. Since 2014 is when he became a head referee. His win percentage for the home team is .67. So 67% of the time, the home team wins. That is a major advantage for the home team. Now, in sports, obviously, the home team has a slight advantage, maybe by 2%, 2 or 3% at the most. Even betting odds know it's roughly around, 3% or so. This guy's 67% of the time the home team wins. And so, with that said, you can't look at this game and go, oh, wow, this was a, fairly officiated game where, obviously they were making the right calls at the right times or keeping the flags put away either. So, my question for even you guys, is there potential he was paid off in this game? And do you think there's biased officiating that happens in the NFL in big moments, and what do we need to do to stop it?
Yeah, so there's definitely some bias there. I'm not going to say yes or no if somebody was paid off, but I'm glad that you led off with the WWE there, because, sorry kids, the WWE is staged, and there is no Santa Claus. Just to throw that out there.
Why you got to do that to me as well?
But the biggest difference between the WWE and the NFL is that the WWE, since it's staged, we don't have to hold people accountable, right? In the WWE, we already know what's going to happen. In the NFL, we should hold people accountable because it's not staged. And what do we talk about every day on this show and other shows across the country? We have players that don't do their job. When I go to work, when you guys go to work, doing your regular jobs every day, in most cases, we are held accountable. If we don't perform, we have to give, accountability to our actions. And so we question players every single day. We question coaches. How much have you heard Joe Judge get trashed over the last 24 hours? He's being held accountable. So my biggest question in this situation is, why are NFL officials not being held accountable? Mike, you and I had a good sit down with some NFL officials earlier, or I guess it was last year, before the season even started. And, they gave some interesting answers when they were asked questions. But what needs to happen to where NFL officials could be held accountable in the same way that players and coaches and all of us regular guys that do regular jobs every day, we're all held accountable, right? What needs to happen for the officials to be held accountable? Because in my eyes, I don't see any evidence of that. Is it just like they get to go off and hide after they make a mistake? Because when I make a mistake at my job, people hold me accountable. And quite frankly, I'm fucking sick of it, right? So I'm sick and fucking tired of this bullshit. Somebody needs to hold these guys accountable. And so, I'm going to call them out right now. And, I hear the announcers on national television. They call them out all day long, but nothing ever happens. And so I think, if you're in a situation where, you've got a backup NFL official, like, is that what we were dealing with in the Chiefs game? That was a backup official? Like,
it's like 4 backups.
How in the hell? 4 actually.
4 backups.
How in the hell does that happen?
I don't know.
And so I'm going to let you answer that, Tanner. But frankly, you guys know my position. I'm fed up with it. I don't want to see it anymore.
Well, one of the things I hear people talk about, Jason, with that is that if they just made NFL referees full-time officials, that could then be used to leverage and hold them accountable for mistakes. And the NFL hasn't had full-time officials, from my understanding, for a very long time. It might have been a thing at some point years ago, but nowadays it's a thing that's talked about, but still they're part-time workers. And so they're just not held accountable for their actions.
But you can get away with it now. All you have to say is, oh, that guy had COVID or this guy had COVID. Now this guy slides in. You don't even have to have an excuse.
No.
And to me, that's a bigger problem now than it used to be, because now we can use COVID-19 as an excuse and just slide in whoever we want.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair. I'm sorry. That's just not fair. When I have to sit there and watch a false start that's not called, that's your job. Your number one job, that's the easiest job on earth.
That's all you're
is
looking
to
at.
Call a false start when it happens.
That's all you're looking at.
And all the players see it. Everybody, Joe Burrow sees it. Joe Burrow said it in his post-game press conference. Yeah. We got some favorable calls. So if everybody in the world, including the opponent, is seeing this shit and it's not getting called, that's a big problem. And quite frankly, these guys need to be written up or fired the same way that you and me would get written up or fired if we're not doing our normal day-to-day 40-hour per week job.
That's right. Yeah, that's really fair. So your first question was this game biased? I'll show you a tweet here. So this was from, real quick here, the Bengals. So this is from Accountable Refs on Twitter here. The account table refs. So they do graphs and stuff on it. So the Bengals gained over 60% win probability from penalties in their Week 17 win over the Chiefs. It was the third largest win probability gained from penalties in any NFL game this year. And so if you look down the chart here, right up top is the Bengals Chiefs. Nobody is remotely close to that win probability on impacted penalties. Nobody. Philly, Washington was the closest, and that's not that's not even that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see by looking at that graph there. It's not the most well put together graph, but
No,
I will say
but
at least
it gives
you an
you
idea.
how much of these impact penalties
Right.
happened.
And especially the timing of them, Tanner. That's my biggest point, is
Correct.
that these penalties don't just happen throughout the game randomly to where it's like, wow, we got way more penalties than the Bengals did. No, they saved a lot. They saved all that for end-of-game moments where the Chiefs would make plays, and then, nope, we can't let that happen. We got to make sure we toss a flag in here to be able to stop you from, forcing a punt or stopping on a fourth down conversion, and things like that. I mean, the Bengals had so many opportunities, and the Chiefs stepped up at the goal line. And at the end of the game, Mahomes never got another chance because they didn't allow him to. I mean, this game was dictated by the officials, just like the WWE dictates who wins every match. Jason, one time you and I went to a wrestling show, and I knew the outcome of all the matches, but you and I were betting shots anyway. So I made sure to pick who I knew was going to win because I had the advantage of knowledge of the insider knowledge of who's going to win each match. But you and I did it anyway because you didn't know that maybe some people are naive out there and they think it's real. But this is a situation where the NFL is looking pretty fraudulent to me.
Well, I got lucky in that instance because we weren't betting money. So since I lost the bet, I got more drunk.
We were
so
betting
I actually
free
won.
shots.
I actually won because I got more drunk.
It was free shots actually, so it was even better.
It was free shots.
Basically,
it was at the deal with me, and we got the
you,
suite and everything.
And you got locked in the bathroom.
And you
and some people do think that getting locked up in a restroom would be losing. I thought of it as winning because I got more hammered.
He was in there all by himself.
My point about this whole topic, guys, was I'm scared for the future of what's going to happen here in the playoffs, because if they can do something like this here in Week 17, then they can do this when it comes time for the playoffs too, and completely organize and structure.
I do have a solution for you. It involves probably a lot of fines happening, but as in the NBA, guys need to use the platforms. Andy Reid needs to use his platform. Bill Belichick needs to use his platform. Some of the big names in the NFL right now need to use that platform to be able to do that. So
I mean,
they can't be afraid of fines.
But here's the thing: you heard Andy Reid this week after the game say, "Look, I don't want to be fined, so I'm just not going to say anything about the refs."
But he wants to hit every single one.
Sure,
like the penalties.
Keep in mind, this is a regular season game, so a lot of guys, even in the NFL, officials like that guy might get demoted, and he may never see the light of day when it comes to playoff games. So we also have payback calls and payback games.
Oh, that happens.
I mean,
that happens.
The playoffs are a completely different season compared to the regular season.
We got Big General here says, "Oh, don't blame the refs. They're not making things up. Never. Why would they?
Right.
They would never
that
do
goes
such
along with
thing
my
all
naive
season
theory
long."
of if you're a wrestling fan thinking that it's real. I'm not saying every game is scripted, but referees can dictate plays to play to get the outcome that they're looking for.
It could actually help.
The NFL wants certain outcomes.
Yeah, it could help the Chiefs in the end because the officials are going to look at that and be like, "Oh my gosh, they got robbed." Now we have to help the Chiefs when the playoff season comes.
I mean,
I didn't just say that, but I actually did.
It's the NFL's world. We're just living in it. They can find ways to structure games, and obviously that's why the referees are not held accountable. You never hear about them getting fined and so on. I mean, they get hated on by coaches and players and fans, but the NFL will never go out and fine referees for poor calls and so on. We saw back in 2017, I believe it was, Tanner. Actually, we had the playoff game, Chiefs and Titans, where that referee retired the day after that playoff game because he did such a poor job in that game of officiating. He retired the very next day, and that was the day where Derek Johnson got a sack on Mariota, and Mariota fumbled. Chiefs recovered. Chiefs were about to win the game after that, and then the referee blew the play dead and said it was forward progress. And it was just literally a simple sack and fumble.
That's all it was.
I mean, and then he retired. So he wasn't going to get fined for bad calls. He was just going to retire and walk away. Anyways, guys, I wanted to make sure we got our thoughts out there. Jason, I appreciate your thoughts here. That was good to hear some of your input on that. So our buddy who joined us during the Chiefs and Chargers game, AC, actually wanted to hear a little bit about some of our offensive line input about this game they had. So all referees aside, guys, we're done with that for now. Let's talk about the impact now of Orlando Brown Jr. I don't know how significant his injury is right now.
It didn't sound significant.
Lucas Nyang is now going to be out for the year, and probably from how bad the injury is going into next year as well. So
unfortunate.
The offensive line we saw that moved into place was Joe Tooney went to left guard, Nick Allegretti Joe Tooney went to left tackle, Nick Allegretti went to left guard, and so the thing was though the additions and drafting and veterans we added to this team throughout the offseason really stepped up and made plays and made transitions. We saw the flexibility of Joe Tooney for the Chiefs and what he means to this team. So the fact he can go from left guard, slide out to left tackle, and do a great job anyways shows, awesome job by Veach to go out and get some of these guys. So we're hoping Brown can come back and get involved once again for the playoff run. But really, some of these guys are stepping up. Andrew Wiley looks really good still. Obviously, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith look great.
So Orlando Brown was a full go on practice. So
good.
That's good news.
Very good news. So that means besides, obviously, Lucas Niang, the whole offensive line will be back to normal. Tooney will go back to left guard. Brown should be a left tackle and so on. So that's what we want to see because when the playoff time comes around, we don't want to see Mahomes running for 496 yards behind the line of scrimmage like he did against the Bucs.
We don't need to see what we saw in the playoffs of last year in the Super Bowl. So
right.
It was a regular season game. Bengals don't really, we talked about earlier, the Bengals don't really have a defense. I'm not too worried about it. I thought it was just great, the fact that they were able to plug and play certain guys and just see what happens. It's kind of a good test of what's our depth like. And Kyle Long still hasn't even played yet.
Right.
We haven't even seen the field.
Andy Reid made a comment this week during a press conference talking about we still have veterans on this team who haven't really gotten to have a chance to show out yet. So Kyle Long still has a chance to at some point in this year playoffs come in.
We still got healthiness because last year we struggled all year with the line interchanging the entire time because everybody was hurt. This year, Orlando Brown was our first injury along the line outside of the right tackle with Wiley Niang. I'll take it.
Yeah, I love the fact that they are interchangeable. And, Joe Tooney was quoted as saying, I'll play wherever. Like, he doesn't care. I love the fact that they are able to rotate these guys. When I first heard about Orlando Brown Jr.'s injury, it really bothered me because it was a calf injury. I was like, oh, great, soft tissue injury. How long is this going to drag out? I like the fact that he practiced. I'm thankful that they held him out of that last game, but I would err on the side of caution here. And, if they feel the need that they want to hold him out against the Broncos, I would definitely do that because we're going to need him for the playoffs. And so I'm glad that the offensive line was able to do what they did and just kind of be able to be, available to rotate the way that they did. But, I hope that they can hold out Orlando Brown Jr. potentially if he's not 100%. I think, but they look great. In the game itself, the offensive line looked great.
Couldn't really tell there was missing.
And going forward, I heard some people talking on 610 radio today about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and kind of his future usage with the team. And people really enjoyed, Darrell Williams is one of my favorite players on this team because he does everything right. He's not the breakaway guy that's going to run for 50 yards, but he's strong as hell. He'll break tackles, he has great hands, and he'll pick up 5, 6, 7 yards consistently. And I'll take that all day long. I'm happy about Darrell Williams. He just does everything right. Where Clyde, is a guy where, we're trying to figure out exactly how valuable he's going to be to this team. People are talking on the radio how maybe they just want him to be kind of a third down back. His usage come down, just leave Darrell as your main starter even once Clyde is back from his injury. And so I think that's something the Chiefs should consider at the moment because just ride the hot hand. Ride the guy who's being productive, giving you everything, every play, and hardly ever gets stopped in the backfield.
You want a fun fact for Darrell here? So Nick Schwartz just tweeted. He said, Chiefs running back Darrell Williams had 422 receiving yards this year, 7th most among NFL running backs. He is the only people above him, Kamara, D. Swift, Harris, Fournette, Patterson, Eckler. So he's in the company with those guys as well.
Yeah, the guy, like I said, you wouldn't think a guy like him would be as productive in the receiving game as he is because it's a big, thick-bodied kind of a guy, kind of a bruising back, but he's doing his job.
I don't know. I feel like when Clyde and they're in, I feel like they're being used appropriately. I really do. I think Clyde should still get maybe the first. I still think the first, second, and use Darrell as your third down guy, your second down, third down guy, fourth down guy, or in the passing game. I think you continue to use them as you're using them when Clyde is healthy.
Yeah, I love Daryl, and for me, they should be the 1A and the 1B. I don't care who's the A and the B. They should be the 1A and 1B the rest of the way.
Yep.
Any thoughts about the Broncos game coming up? Chiefs still have the number one seed open to them as long as the Titans take a loss, of course. But Denver now. The Chiefs have won 11 in a row against the Broncos.
I thought.
It could be more.
I think it's 13.
I've lost track at this point. I know what day it was that it happened, but I don't really remember how many. It was September 15th of 2016 or 2015, excuse me, was the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs, and that was on a very fluky last play of the game by Jamal Charles.
13. Oh, sorry, it was 12. I think this will be the 13th.
13 in a row after this? Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to keep the streak going and all that. Drew Lock will be starting. Teddy Bridgewater is out for the year with an injury. And so the last time Drew Lock came to Arrowhead, it was pretty ugly. Obviously we're going to Denver here, but it's pretty ugly. Drew Lock's not had success yet against Kansas City. And so I'm expecting some more of the same, and I think the Chiefs should be ready to roll and expect a wild card game coming up a week after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Drew Lock, he got banged up as well last week, so I'm not expecting anything major from him, just with Teddy going to IR. So
yeah,
I'm contain the run game. You're fine.
Yeah, Drew Lock, he took a hit to the right throwing shoulder last week, so he has been limited this week, but he's actually questionable. Now, they do think that he's going to give it a go, but, does it really matter? Because Drew Lock sucks. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if he plays. It might be better if he doesn't play. That's how bad he sucks. But, the Chiefs have to take this game seriously and get the job done.
This needs to be a confidence booster going into the playoffs. You got to just figure out the last bit of things left before you start hitting the playoffs. So it's what it's used for. That's once again, the Broncos are used for a confidence booster for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. Last time Patrick played the Broncos in the last week of the season was his very first game in the NFL. And that was in Denver, and it was a beautiful comeback victory.
And we all saw that.
So I'm expecting the Chiefs to go out there and need a win.
Yep.
Jason, you want some NBA talk for a minute?
We got actually about 10 minutes, if we're lucky.
Okay.
If we're lucky.
Let us have it. I want to know what your thoughts are going forward with some of these returning stars in the NBA.
Let's get it cracking. So we've got a couple of guys returning soon and then another guy that might be returning after your All-Star break. So I want to start with some of these NBA players that will be returning, how it's going to impact their respective teams, and how it's going to affect the landscape of the NBA going forward as we look forward to the playoffs. So first guy I want to talk about is Kyrie Irving. So he did return tonight against the Pacers. Nets actually won that game 129-121. Kyrie was 9 of 17. That's not a bad field goal percentage the first game
good.
back. Yeah. 22 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. KD blew up. He had 39 points. So for me, is it going to hurt the Nets or is it going to help the Nets? Because we know he's only going to be playing in road games. So he's not allowed to play in the state of New York or in San Francisco.
Or Canada, right? Toronto.
And when I look at the play-in situation in the NBA, Eastern Conference, the New York Knicks are currently the 11th seed. They could easily make it into that play-in tournament, and they could go up against the Nets in the first round. And so that would be an issue, not to mention the fact that, we all think the Nets are championship bound, are going to make to the finals. Guess who they're going to play? Golden State Warriors, most likely. Golden State Warriors are the favorite right now to come out of the West. So you have a scenario where Kyrie might not be able to play in road games in the first round and or the final series. And so basically for me, I love the fact that he's coming back. I think it's going to help the Nets in the limited amount of time that we have in the regular season. But it's also going to help them in the playoffs. Playoffs? It's going to help them even on those road games, because even if he's not playing at home for the Nets, it's always tough. If you're trying to win a championship in the NBA, those are the toughest games, is when you're going on the road. And so I do think that Kyrie can help them, But I mean, for me, ideally, I think it would be better if he would come off the bench because, I mean, you're worried about chemistry with him, KD, and Harden. They only played 14 games together last year. I mean, that's going to be an insult to him if somebody ever asks him to come off the bench. So it's probably not going to happen. But I mean, do you guys think this is going to help the Nets or hurt them ultimately?
I don't know if it makes much of a difference right now, but the thing is, for me, Kyrie's going to play away games, correct? Is that what I understand?
Just the away games.
And they've only lost 3 away games so far this season, as I understand as well. And so, obviously, they felt like for a moment there they were scrambling, and he's going to come back and play, sparingly, obviously. I don't know if it really helps or hurts the team. I think, as you said, him coming off the bench might be the better way to go about it for now. But I do enjoy the fact that he stuck to his guns, and they are the ones that ended up begging him back.
Yeah, so field goals made this year. Kevin Durant, of course, leads at 10.8 per game, right? Field goals made. Kyrie, last year, was 10.2 by himself. Led the team, right? So that's going to be a help there. Assist, he also led the team last year. And that's going to help he didn't lead the team last year, but he had 6 assists per game, which is still helpful versus what they got now at, of course, it's sample size, but 1.4 assists, steals, 9.9 is Harden, 5.7 is Durant. So you're still missing a good chunk right there, that 6 assists per game, and just being distributed. And then, of course, defense-wise, steals. We all know he could play defense out like crazy. He led the team last year with 1.4. And right now you're sitting at 1.4 for James Harden, who's, hasn't played. Bruce Brown, the former K-State guy, sitting at 1.2. So, yeah, he's going to help not only on the defensive side. He might even groom Brown even better if he's able to play with him. 1.2 could turn into 1.5 with Brown if you have Kyrie sitting right there too. So that's double force on the backside there. So I don't know. I think Kyrie will actually be a pretty good force for this team, and it's something that they will need, especially going on to the hard part of the year where they need to make that playoff push for the seeds.
Yeah, for me, Kyrie can only help and not hurt the Nets, but it's going to make for an interesting scenario if they end up playing the Warriors in the finals with Kyrie only playing a couple of road games, but that could actually impact the finals.
It could.
That's just like a bizarre ending to the season if it happens. But Tanner, do you have a guy that you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah, as soon as my computer boots back up.
Oh wow! As soon as who is on your list? Do you have AD, Klay Thompson's back?
I got both of them. So who do you got? Do you have somebody you want to turn on?
Not necessarily, but Klay Thompson coming back to me also. Obviously, been injured for a couple of years, and so his return to the team. You're talking about the best defense in the entire league, right? I don't know if he's going to make much of an impact one way or the other. Are they going to get much better from where they're currently at because of Klay Thompson? I don't really see it that way. They already have obviously a great offense, so I just don't know if he's going to make much of an impact right away. But I think long term, maybe as the season progresses into, May and June, then you could see his role really expand on the team as he's showing out and fully healthy and everything.
Yeah, here's the thing about Klay Thompson that I want to point out first and foremost is that the Warriors don't need him, dude. Like, if you look at the current odds, yeah, the Warriors are plus 450. The Nets are plus 250. But for me, personally, the Warriors should be the favorite right now. And they don't need Klay Thompson.
No.
But if you throw Klay Thompson into the mix, I heard in scrimmage the other day, he shot 50% of the field from the field. He hit 24 3-pointers in a row in practice. And we talking about practice? But the Warriors, to me, are the best team in the league right now without Klay Thompson, who is coming back from a torn ACL. And I think the lateral movement, we all know Klay Thompson as being an elite defender. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get that lateral movement back. But when we're talking about making threes and shooting, dude, he's a part of the Splash Brothers. That's like riding a bike. So the NBA as a whole is going to be in a world of hurt when he comes back on January 9th, as
Sunday.
Adrian Wojnarowski has reported. He's going to be back on January 9th versus the Cavs. And so, dude, I thought this thing was over before Klay. if Clay is like 75 to 80% of himself, dude, this thing's over. Just give him the trophy right now.
As I told my buddy Bruce today, it's going to be like a cheat code just coming in. You might as well just quit the season.
I think it's a little bit of both. Like Jason made a point, they don't need him, but adding him to the mix is not going to hurt anything.
No.
So,
well, I mean, if you look at 3-point field goals made per game, they're sitting at 5.3 for Steph and then 2.7 for Jordan Poole's the next one down. When in 2018 to 2019, Clay was sitting at 3.1 threes a game. So, I mean, you're going to get all that back. But on top of that, you're going to get a guy who can steal with 1.1 steals in 2018 per game. So you're going to get a guy that's be able to play defense, which is kind of what they need as well to continue on that. And then points per game alone, Clay was 21.5 points per game in 2018. Like you're sitting here going to have right now you have Steph with 27. Wiggins is the next one down with 19. You're going to get that much point production back on this team to have Klay Thompson come back. It is practically like a Madden cheat code or an NBA 2K cheat code. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. Who else do you have, Tanner?
All right, we got Anthony Davis, guys, with the Lakers. I didn't quite catch. Is he returning? I didn't quite catch that.
Soon.
He's not coming back anytime soon.
Isn't it like probably a month away, right? February, I think.
We said All-Star break, right?
Well, I'm guessing that they're probably going to play it safe and hold him back until after the All-Star break. Now, this was kind of a freak injury, so we all think as AD as being an injured bum. Oh my gosh, he gets injured every year.
I mean,
this was a freak injury where somebody actually barreled into his knee.
Yeah.
And I think it was like an MCL sprain. So it wasn't a tear, but it was a sprain. But what are you guys' thoughts as far as him coming back after the All-Star break? Is that really going to impact the Lakers or?
Yeah. So when he comes back, total rebounds is going to improve because that's where they're really hurting. Assists per game. AD moves the ball around the court and his blocks. He leads the team 1.6 in blocks last year. And I think he's so far leading it this year as well. So, like, when AD comes back, it's not just an offensive production they're going to get back. They're going to get the defensive side of production going back. And as long as you have LeBron sitting out here doing his thing, 30 points per game, the last, I think, week now, if he continues to do that and you get AD back and you have him, do the defensive side of the ball that you need him to do, I mean, this Lakers team could make a comeback into the more of a mix of the playoffs, so it could be a middle seed by the end of the year. But it depends all when AD comes back because you need that defense to be able to do stuff.
Yeah, what do you think about the Lakers, Mike?
Yeah,
is that going to make a difference?
They're 20-19 right now. They do have a 3-game win streak, which is great, but I think that's going to make a slight difference on the team because right now I think they're trying to figure out the chemistry, get that on point. This will be a team that ends up at the end of the day above 500 on the record scale. I just can't guarantee that they're going to be anything productive in the playoffs. Just the old team that they have running there, I don't really see them necessarily going out and dominating, even with the return of AD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, with the Lakers, they, like you said, they won 3 consecutive games, and that's actually been with LeBron James. I don't know if you guys noticed, he's playing the 5 spot now. Now, I don't know how that's going to work when AD comes back, although I will say that Westbrook has played better over the last couple games. He actually had his first turnover-free game since 2016.
That's big, dude.
He was 19-7-2 last night. Maybe he listens to us media hacks
This is a
that are
reckless
complaining.
guy.
We're just complaining about his turnovers, so he finally didn't have any turnovers. But he was 7 of 19, which is that's not a good shooting percentage last night. But I mean, I think the biggest question for the Lakers is, does Westbrook have it in him to be a true point guard, a true distributor? And I think when you've got LeBron on the team, basically as the coach and the general manager, I think that's possible. We all think that like Westbrook is a nervous wreck. He's not going to be able to refine his game. He's not going to be able to change his ways. But I think there's a chance, and especially when AD comes back, you could actually see LeBron James playing the 4, AD at the 5, and Westbrook being at the point guard. But I think it's between now and the All-Star break where Westbrook has to figure out a way to figure it out, like and be able to let LeBron trust him. Like LeBron obviously trusts the guy, but I think Westbrook is still trying to prove himself to the team. And I actually believe in Westbrook, not as a shooter, but as a guy
Facilitator.
who can run the offense. And they have no other choice. But when AD comes back, it's going to be interesting to see, do they leave LeBron maybe as the power forward, or do they maybe start making him the point forward? So that'll be interesting to watch as we go forward. So, but that's all we got for the NBA.
Yeah, it looks like the camera's dying too, guys. So right in time. Right on time.
Oh, those that are listening, give us a follow here on. You subscribe as well on YouTube, and check us out as well on Spotify, my favorite platform, as a matter of fact. So, those out there listening, I'll see y'all on the next one.
We out.
See you guys.
Camera's dead.